Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. I appreciate each one of you participating in this particular session. I am a full-time physician. My name is Neville Pokroy. I'm a nephrologist, but also a proud member of the IAC in Las Vegas, Nevada. As in our professional endeavors... Hello? Can you hear me now? I can sit down. Yes, I'll sit down. So as in our professional endeavors to intervene in the natural history of disease, so too we are building a hub of influence to protect and enhance Jewish life, Israel, and the communities we live in. About 2 months ago, my fellow council members, Drs. Miriam Adelson, Adin Boulder, Joe Shalev, Nili Sachs, and of course with Noah, our regional director, we agreed to promote the idea of having a medical division in the IAC. So we're very excited to start this division here today. There's so much goodness and action that Israel contributes to the world as first responders. No doubt all in this room know about that, but the world at large is often oblivious to it. From building resilience to both natural disasters and the consequence of terror, Israel has gained the know-how and knowledge to respond to some of these events. Our guests on this panel are heroes and warriors whose passion is dealing with these causes. Saving lives is their daily business. To meet our extraordinary panel and learn of personal stories around medicine in times of crisis, and for being ambassadors for Israel, allow me to introduce our moderator, Mr. Boaz Bismuth, on my left side. He's the foreign news editor and senior analyst for IsraAID. Boaz, stage is yours. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Although I believe they would have preferred your, what do you say, Rhodesia accent rather than mine. Rhodesia. I'm still with Cecil Rhodes. You see, I'm along here many years ago. You see. Anyway, but they will have to bear my Israeli accent, but never mind. So first of all, I must say, I mean, usually as you know me, or those who know me or see me in other panels, I never prepare anything. But this time I must admit, they gave me this panel to moderate, which is on a topic on the contrary that I have a lot of respect for the people who are here and for the subject by itself, and that is why the introduction I did prepare. And I would like to say that as a journalist and as a former ambassador, I had the opportunity to experience firsthand what Israel can offer and what it does offer when nations that are struck with tragedy, epidemics, natural disasters, such as earthquakes and so forth. And the range of options is above and beyond that most countries can offer. Israel has always had an outstretched hand, and unlike other countries, it was always a genuine hand, not just some cheese to clear its conscience like what some other countries do. So I would say that it's like a little United Nations. Now we leave the paper introduction, and I'll give you two insights, two examples. For me, what is Israel? One is exactly Israel doing its job elsewhere in a place, I mean, like where you have a disaster. And one which is a bit about our country that can make you very proud, and this is the place where our three honorable guests, work and got the education and inspiration from. So I'll start with Mauritania. You know, I was a correspondent in Paris for a newspaper. I was sent for 3 years. They forgot me there 16. It's Paris, who minds? They could have forgotten me 35 years also. But sometimes, you know, your luck changes. But then to Mauritania, they sent me 2 years. They forgot me 4. So you see, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Anyway, when I was in Mauritania, there was a flooding in the eastern part of the country. Now, we speak of a state which is ranked 152 in the world, like one of the poorest countries in the world. I beg your pardon? No anymore? Wait. Is it better now? Yes. We speak of a state that is ranked 152 in the world, like one of the poorest countries you can believe. We speak of a state like 50 degrees Celsius. We speak of a state where my best friends were my neighbors, which were camels. I mean, it was very, very tough, like for 4 years. Yet, what was important is that you really felt important. And why? Because over there in the 4 years, Israel, with the money, not American money or money from that we pay from our taxes, we built a cancer hospital in the 4 years. That's why I stayed for so long. But especially when you had problems, for example, floodings in the eastern part of the country, I mean, all the ambassadors would be called to the president and asking you to do something. So the easiest thing is what? Is to write a check. Write a check. Israel refused to write a check, and we said we will give you anything you want, but not in check. We shall bring assistant, and we shall come to the place and do the work by itself, and we shall do even the hard work, which is more than money. And you see that many countries, on the contrary, prefer to give the check. We prefer to give the know-how, and those people that you see around me, that's exactly why I have so much respect for what they do, and I'm so pleased that they come here. So the second thing, just before I present them, and you'll permit me just a little introduction. Look, I can't, prevent myself. We're now at the IAC. We speak about America. We speak about Israel. We speak about you, the community. Those two countries are very dear to them. Other panels, of course, they speak more about diplomacy, about politics, about the image of Israel, etc., etc. I would like to say one more thing because it's personal, and among those three guests, one is dealing with hearts of babies. So maybe I'll say also one thing, and to show when people say about Israel, a country, a state, apartheid state, etc., etc., only to tell you that what we do abroad, we also do inside Israel. Unfortunately, my son, King David, was born with a big heart defect and had a very serious operation in Schneider Hospital in Israel. And when I see the cases that they deal over there, when I see cases during the war in Gaza, Gaza kids over there and having the same treatment like my son, honor for Israel, honor for my country, honor for the doctors, and honor for the three guests that are around me today. So I'll start the presentation of the panel. I have beside me on the right-hand side, Professor Isaac Ashkenazi. Now you correct me if I'm wrong, of course, and I'm even quit, if I'll be so ashamed. Professor Isaac Ashkenazi, a doctor and a colonel in the Israel Defense Force and an international expert in crisis management and leadership. Professor Ashkenazi is an international expert on disaster management and leadership, community resilience and mass casualty events with both extensive professional and academic experience. He is considered one of the world's foremost experts in medical preparedness for complex emergencies and disasters. In 1982, and that's why he's very famous, this gentleman, Ashkenazi volunteered to the paratrooper forces in the IDF as a military doctor. After 4 years of intensive military training, treating wounded soldiers and working under fire, Ashkenazi started his residency in ophthalmology at the Sheba Medical Center. He led medical mission teams to give assistance to the USA Embassy survivors in Nairobi after the terrorist attack, August 1998, to the survivors of the earthquake in Turkey, August and November 1999, where you agree with me that you became very famous in Israel, and in Greece, September 1999. So please, you can applaud, I think, Professor Isaac Ashkenazi. He deserves. With us also Mr. Yotam Polizer, a bit younger, I think, the director of global partnership at the IsraAID relief organization that goes to disaster areas around the world. Yotam Polizer has over 10 years of experience in education, humanitarian aid, and international development. Following the September 2015 refugee crisis in Europe that you all followed, I guess, on television, Yotam has led a humanitarian mission in Lesbos, Greece, to support the Syrian refugees. Israel is supporting, of course, the Syrian refugees. Yotam also established IsraAID Germany, IsraAID's German branch, providing long-term support for Yazidi and Syrian refugees in Germany. During the 2015 earthquake in Nepal, Yotam has led a rescue, education, psychosocial, and medical mission in the affected areas. Although he's young, he deserves your applause too, I think. Otherwise, I leave. And our third guest, the youngest one, is Professor Arie Schachner, you spell. Arie Schachner, MD, President of Save a Child's Heart Foundation. Professor Arie Schachner was born in Poland and immigrated to Israel at the age of 10. He served in the Israeli Defense Force with the rank of a major. Since 1974, Professor Schachner has been part of the faculty of the Schachner School of Medicine in Tel Aviv University. He has a vast experience in biotechnical startups and has served as advisor to many companies. Professor Schachner has made many scientific articles published in professional journals, and he, as we said before, saved little hearts. For me personally, he merits also my applause. So after I am pleased, of course, to present them all, and I'll start with you, and we shall, with your permission, of course, we shall not take, question to each. We shall take every one of them because it's so interesting and important to see what they do. So I'll start with Professor Ashkenazi. You found this 9-year-old, you remember Shiran Franco, of course. How can you forget? All of Israel remembers. In the rubble after Turkey was hit in an earthquake in 1999. She was buried beneath the rubble for more than 100 hours. We mentioned when I saw you before, my friend and scholar David Lavie, today Dr. David Lavie, used to be the journalist of Maariv who covered this rescue. I talked to him last week. He wanted to replace me and come immediately. I said no. Now, David Lavie knows Ashkenazi and talked with him during the rescue efforts. They both met again, I think, at Shiran's wedding. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Lavie later told me that he was never surprised that Ashkenazi was the one who found her. Lavie told me that the Israeli team that was sent to Turkey didn't know there were Israelis there, and they were not supposed to search the rubble in that specific place. They first arrived to help the Turks in a military base, and only later helped the civilians. She was there 100 hours without water and food, but the Israeli team did not give up and drilled everywhere they could in search of survivors. A father and twin brother died in the crash, and when she grew up and got engaged, she asked that Ashkenazi fill the role of her father and led her to the chuppah, which is very emotional. Mr. Ashkenazi, let me turn to you for the first question. What was so special at the time with your team?
Nothing was so special because it was usual. A disaster happened, 3 a.m. in the morning. Israel is preparing immediately. Less than 24 hours, we are there. We are in Turkey, 3 major teams, 1 field hospital, medical teams, and also search and rescue. Less than 24 hours, we start working there. Just to put things into perspective, it was 7.6 the magnitude and 37 seconds of shaking. 20,000 immediately dead. More than 200,000 have been injured, more than 150,000 buildings collapsed. It was a real disaster. I'm used to mass casualty event of 50, 100, maybe 200, that's it. It was a huge disaster. And for those that were trapped under the rubbles, it was a real issue because they don't have water and the temperature outside is about 100 Fahrenheit. And you have less than maybe 90 hours, 100 hours to take them out. If not, they are dead. They are dead, they are alive, they are okay, not injured, but they will die because you are not rescuing them. So Friday morning, we extricated 300 bodies, dead bodies. But at the same time, in between the bodies, we found 8 survivors. And we were happy. Friday night, Shabbat, Kiddush, the dinner of Shabbat. And then we were considering during the Shabbat dinner, maybe this is the time to give a break because we were exhausted. We were really exhausted, no sleep, no nothing for 4 days. We were exhausted. And then because of medical advice, we said we are now 90 hours into the event. We have another window of opportunity of 10 hours. Let's continue. So we continue the search and rescue missions. And 5 a.m. in the morning, we heard some weird noise. So we opened a hole in the rubbles, and I entered my head inside. And it was something like, it was not a language. It was like someone was talking there. It was like something like a gibberish something, but suddenly I heard something in Hebrew like, go away, lech mipo, or who are you, mi ata? And I was, after 4 days of no sleep, I thought, okay, this is impossible. In Hebrew, down here, impossible. I took my head out. I asked the general, Gabi Ophir, go inside. He took his head out. He said, yeah, someone is talking Hebrew there. So we expanded the hole. I put half of my body inside, and I saw two kids there. One was actually killed, Arie, the twin brother of Shiran, and he died about 24 hours before arriving to this area. It means that he survived for about 2 days. And Shiran. Shiran was trapped in between her brother and the rebels. I tried to pull her out. She was so afraid of me that she tried to escape into the rebels. So I hold her with my left hand in the feet, and I took her like a bridge delivery, outside. And usually when you take someone from the rebels, you have protocols. You have a stretcher, you have to stabilize him, you have to give him a medical treatment, but this time I don't know why. I decided that the best treatment is to take her in my arms and give her the feeling of someone that she can trust. So I hold her for about 20 minutes, and then after 3-4 hours of intensive treatment, again she was dehydrated, pulse rate of more than 150, her rectal temperature was 40.7. It means it was about 105 Fahrenheit. She was actually dying, and she survived. We brought her to Israel, and now she's okay.
First, you said at the beginning, this is something that we do. This is a normal thing, nothing exceptional, and listen to the story that you say just afterwards. But seriously, Professor, this Turkish experience, and I know the story, I read it, we covered it, the Israeli media, and every time I listen to it, I'm thrilled again, the emotion again and again. Did it change anything in your work, in your perception, in anything, this specific experience of Shiran Franco?
Actually, the change of my life was before this event. It was a very, very unique day. It was in Lebanon. My first day as a military physician. My first day in Lebanon. My first day to treat someone under fire. 7 years before this event, I was in the medical school in the Hebrew University. And I was considered to be a very promising physician. And my teacher said, this guy is cool, confident, steady hands. And I was happy. After the medical school, I was recruited to the medical corps for 6 months of training. And I graduated with honor this training. And again, my commander said, this guy is exceptional physician, military physician. Cool, confident, steady hands. And then after a very short weekend, I found myself in Lebanon. A couple of hours after receiving new rifle, M16, short one, very fancy one, ammunition, magazines, and a huge, huge backpack with medical equipment, I was called to treat a soldier that was severely injured. The commander took me with his vehicle. I couldn't fill the magazines with bullets. I have only one magazine with 4 bullets. Big backpack. They brought me to the area, shootings from all over, bombing. I was terrified. Believe me, I was terrified. I was sweating. My pulse was like crazy horse. I was shaking, but it was night and nobody saw that. But I was not shaking only in my hands. I was shaking in all my body. So I approached the soldier. He was bleeding from all over. Again, this is the first time that I see someone under fire that is bleeding. He had injury in his chest, injury in his chin, injury in his scalp. He had a bullet in his trachea and a bullet in his leg. So multi-trauma, again the first time. I was shaking, I was terrified. No cool, no confident, no steady hands, nothing. So I don't know how long it took, but it took a while until I was come again, and I saved this guy. And from that moment, and actually the past 30 years, I committed myself for saving lives. And I'm saving lives or doing these crisis issues because I have a passion for that. And I'm not competing with nobody. I'm not competing with the heroes except myself. And I'm trying every day to do better than my last assignment. This is what I do.
In a certain way, and that's also the topic of today, I mean, you're saving lives, you're rescuing, but you're also honoring the image of your country. I mean, you're also an ambassador of Israel. Now, we spoke about that specific earthquake in 1999, I think it was in Turkey. We know that it was a few years before Erdogan came to power, and therefore we had okay relations. Yet my question is, I mean, when you go there for the local population, I mean, you come to save Israelis, or they do understand that you come for them, for everybody?
They know that we Israelis come for everybody, because actually we came to Gulchuk, and Gulchuk is a place with no tourism of Israelis. And we were there. Most of our forces were there. We went and we decided that the field hospital would be in Adapazari, a place with no Israeli tourists. And, you know, I have connections. I can say that the Turkish community like me because I know to speak their language. My father is from Turkey. So, actually I also have family from my mother's side, a Muslim family there. So I'm good there.
Sure,
and they knew that I came for them and not for specifically for the Israelis.
That's why you couldn't understand Shiran. She was speaking Hebrew. But I'm joking. But you say Turkey, and you understand Turkey, of course. I mean, the Turkish culture. And also maybe you could clear up to the audience, I mean, also how much politics have an influence even on saving lives and on rescuing. For example, you know that Turkey had also another earthquake recently, I think. And then, I mean, for Turkey's authorities, were we wanted? I mean, they asked us to come back or not, and why?
No, but usually countries are not asking for help.
Why?
The leaders are, in the beginning of the disaster, they are in shock. If you are offering them assistance, they will tell you, okay, we will tell you if we need you. But don't ask them, just go. They are not going to reject your assistance. So in the first earthquake, no politics. This time, also not politics, because Turkey now is ready. They don't need us. They have excellent search and rescue forces that we trained them for more than 10 years. So they are ready.
Nice. With your permission, I'll go to our young guest, Mr. Polizer. I think that you were honored at the time, I mean, to lead, I think, was it in Nepal, the Israelis' biggest delegation, or am I wrong?
Also in Nepal, yeah. In Nepal, actually, we had a similar story, but we were able, after 6 days, together, we worked very closely with the IDF. The IDF had the field hospital, and we had the search and rescue team. And after 6 days, we were able to find the last survivor of the earthquake, a Nepalese lady who was buried in the rubble for 130 hours. And today, thank God, she's back with her 2 children in the village. And we brought her. It was a very nice collaboration because we come from the NGO world, but the army had a wonderful field hospital. So it was a big story because when all the news agencies heard that there was a survivor found, they were all waiting outside, and they all, you know, ambulances came and they all tried to pull them to the Norwegian hospital, to the German. We said no, we take her to the Israeli hospital, and after 2 months of intensive care, she's now back with her family. But actually, I want to mention our work with the Syrian refugees in Greece. So, I mean, you can see in the images there, it's quite interesting because these pictures were taken in Lesbos in Greece, where exactly a year ago in September, we had 5,000 to 7,000 refugees arriving every day on these rubber boats. And the first people they see when they reach the shore are this group of Israelis. You know, we always joke that they probably think they took the wrong boat. They probably think they are in Haifa or God knows where. So first, they were terrified, they were shocked. And I remember one Syrian father from Damascus, when after we treated his daughter, who was 2 years old, she was suffering from severe hypothermia, he told me in fluent English, apparently he was an engineer in Damascus, very educated. He said, "My worst enemy became my biggest supporter, and the people who's supposed to protect me back home are chasing me away." So it really made me realize not only how important the work in saving life, but what kind of an opportunity we have here to build bridges between people and between enemies. You know, they thought we have horns, and then we ended up treating their children. One of the amazing stories that we had there on the beach was that one day we get a call from the volunteers, and they told us that a Syrian pregnant lady arrived on the beach, and her water broke as soon as she reached the shore. And I remember our doctor, Arie, a Jewish doctor from Tel Aviv, from Ichilov, she was asking the volunteer, how far is she? So the volunteer from the other side was screaming, "I can see the head." So she rushed there, and we had an interesting team, because at that time we had Arie, a Jewish Israeli doctor from Tel Aviv, and Malek, who is a Bedouin Muslim nurse from Soroka Hospital in Be'er Sheva. So they went there together, they conducted the delivery. The baby's name is Ramadan and he's healthy, and when they reached Germany safely, they sent Arie a picture on Facebook with the baby, and they told her, "You are like his second mother." You know, for an Israeli Jewish doctor from Tel Aviv to hear that from a Syrian Muslim lady, I think it's quite a unique experience. So we really see how these disasters are an opportunity to build bridges, and not only that people respect the fact that we're coming to help everyone, not just the Jews and the Israelis. It's really an opportunity for us to change their perspective about Israel. So this is what we see there on a daily basis.
Interesting, but you say that they see that Israelis don't have horns, and maybe also U.S. Israeli aids, Israeli support sees also that Syrians also don't have horns. Does it change anything? I mean, you knew also this thing with Syrians. I mean, let's not forget. I mean, Syrians, one of our greatest enemies. We all heard when we were kids stories about the way they treated Israeli prisoners during the 73 wars. I mean, horrible, really horrible. And when you see them, so I would like something to ask you as an Israeli, I mean, who deals with that. I mean, maybe something personal, one-on-one with your first Syrian, first really talk, something really interesting that you see that through the aid, you break walls.
So I think, first of all, for all of us, and we're bringing together a lot of Israelis, American Jews, and in our team, it's a mix of Arabs and Jews working together. So we have Bedouins, we have Druze, we have Christian, the head of our program in Greece is now from Nazareth. So I think the whole situation from all sides of the story is a situation to break walls. One of the stories that we have now is in Germany. In Germany, we work very closely with the German government, again, to help the refugees. And we brought a lot of Jews, both from here and people from the Jewish community in Germany. And for them, it was the first time they met Syrian and Muslim refugees, and it really created this people-to-people connection. One thing that we did was not such a heroic humanitarian thing, was just bringing high school students from San Francisco and high school students from Israel and high school students from Berlin to meet Syrian high school students who, because of the situation in Syria, had to flee. And it was an amazing connection on all sides. They just played soccer, they played music, they did arts together. But again, through this crisis, it was a great opportunity to reduce the stigma and reduce the fear on all sides.
Before I turn to Professor Arie Schachner, I have just one last question to you, Mr. Polizer. Is the question, when you do what you do it in the name of, as you belong to the humanitarian army, humanitarian force, or you see yourself as an Israeli ambassador when you do it? Who do you belong at a specific moment?
I think it's both. I think the reason that we are now active in 19 countries around the world. We have about 860 volunteers, Jews, non-Jews, and I think the combination of both. So you can see from the pictures our Israeli and Jewish affiliation is quite visible. The name is IsraAID. The logo is the Star of David. So it's quite clear where we're from. But we get now half of our funding from the UN, for example. And that's probably not because we're Israelis, as we're well aware. So I think the combination of a proud Israeli identity, Jewish affiliation, with very professional, the most professional. You see here, I'm, as you said, I'm the youngest. I'm sitting with two amazing.
The youngest, I thought.
You're the youngest
You're the
at heart.
second youngest. You're the second youngest.
The second
Schachner
youngest.
Schachner just made his bar mitzvah. Continue, please.
No, but I think the key success is to do our work not as a hasbara, but to do it in the most professional manner and bring the best expertise in the world. And it ended up being the best hasbara for Israel.
When you describe the Star of David, I mean, another question comes to me, and I know that all the audience are dying to know that, and that's why I'm asking on their behalf. Lesbos, for example, when you go to among the refugees, I mean, and many of them are from Syria or from Iraq, did any time happen to you, occur that you want to help someone, he sees the Star of David, he hears the Ivrit, he hears the Hebrew, and he says, no, thank you?
The only, and this is, to be very honest, the only time that we faced rejection was never from the refugees themselves, was sometimes from other aid groups, from Europe or even from the States. And it didn't happen so many times. Many of these groups that we know maybe are not our typical friend, like the UN or like Doctors Without Borders. They've seen our work and they collaborated with us, but we did have encountered some rejection. The refugees themselves, they were, most cases, shocked. But think about it. Their leaders slaughter them. Their extreme religious group, whether it's ISIS or Nusra, slaughter them. And then Israelis, Jews, and Arabs help them. So it's a very confusing situation. But we never had encountered any anti-Semitism. They were asking, they were curious. Some of them were maybe a little bit hesitant, but when they saw the work that we're doing and they heard from other refugees that our goal here is to save lives, they were very cooperative.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Schachner, as I said before, I mean, unfortunately, I'm a bit, how would I say, unfortunately, again, I know a little bit what's happening, of course, in the art department, especially of children. I go there every 6 months for the checkup. It's like maintenance of a car, but it's a maintenance of a child. And I see, as I told you, very proud of Israel when I go to Schneider and I see all those little Jewish kids, Haredim kids, Arab kids, and even, as I told you, even during wars, I mean, I see the enemy kids. Yet when they go back to Gaza, for example, nobody really knows that they were treated in an Israeli hospital. Are you aware of that, and do you really care about it, and is it something important for you, that people know who treated this little baby's heart?
Okay, Boaz, I'm going to surprise you with few things that you don't know yet. First of all, although I'm very young, I'm very happy to see here very young people, because the story of Save a Child's Heart, and my story, personal story, is kind of a way that it can help you very much in your future development. So, Boaz, just to tell you the story, Dr. George Frankel was a resident of mine, the guy who operated on your child.
You saved my child.
And I'll tell you a story about him. That was, I had opened up a new department in Wolfson Medical Center. There was no heart surgery in Wolfson Medical Center. And I saw, every time I arrived to my office, I saw a guy sitting at 6 o'clock in the morning near my door, and he was sitting and saying, "Good morning, Professor." So I said, "Good morning," entered my office, I came out, I didn't see him. And so for half a year, good morning, professor, I went in. So at the end, I asked my secretary, tell me, who is this guy who sits on the chair in front of my office and he disappears immediately? What does he want from me? Just to say good morning? And she said, and then she told me, you know, he's cleaning the banks and other places because he doesn't have any job, and he wants to become a heart surgeon, and he wants to speak to you, but he never approached you to talk to you. So I said, call him immediately now. So she called him and said, you are accepted to my program, because waiting half a year in front of my door, that's a good situation. So that is a story of George Wagner. I gave him the whole residency, whatever I taught him, and I'm so happy that he succeeded in the life of Europe.
You did a great job.
But my story too is a very interesting one. First of all, I think I knew from the age of 2 years that I'm going to be a heart surgeon. I don't know how, but that's what everybody told me. Now, I'm a Holocaust survivor, and I'll never forgive the people who made me and my people a generation without grandfathers and grandmothers, because they exterminated our grandfather and grandmother. Being a grandfather of 7 beautiful children, I know what I lost. So this SOB Hitler, I'll never forgive him about it. Second, when I was about half a year with my mom, and she told me later on that she was running from hiding place to another not to be executed, and I was like 2 months old on her. I became very ill. But then she made it to run away to Russia, first of all to Siberia, and then to Kazakhstan. And there I was very sick, and the Russian Jewish major saved my life. Mm-hmm. I think he implanted something in me that I knew that from the beginning, being very young, I will be a surgeon. And I grew up over there in Kazakhstan, and at the age of 6, I was operating mice, okay? My cousin was the anesthetist. He was putting them to sleep with ether, and I was cutting them up, sewing them up, and I was wondering why they don't run. You know? So, okay. But you know, the mice in Kazakhstan or in Russia, there are no mice, regular mice. Every mice there was a lion. So they were good subjects to operate on. I was for 25 years in the Bellinson or Rabin Hospital. I grew up, I had a fellowship in the United States, in Buffalo, Niagara Falls, beautiful place, but very cold. But in 25 years, I became the deputy chief and then the chief for 3 years of the program in Bellinson in Rabin Hospital. But you know, I liked it. I wanted to do it my way, not to continue. It's the first advice that I'm giving you, the young people. Do it your way. And if you believe that your way is good, stick to it, do it. If the project has good energy, it will propel itself by itself. So I went for a tender in Wolfson Medical Center. The year was very important. It was 1991. Desert Storm and the fall of the evil Russian Empire, where Jews from all over the world and also from Russia were storming into Israel. And I decided that I got the department, I decided I'm going to build an international department. So I accepted one doctor from Mexico, a doctor from Kfar Kasem in Israel, an Arab. I accepted nurses from Ethiopia, from Nigeria, from different places, an international thing. And the government told me, because it's a government hospital, they told me you operate only 1 case a week, because there are big hospitals around. Bellinson is the biggest hospital in Israel. So in the first week I operated already 7, and in the next one 14, and so I didn't listen to and I developed this program. And then I got a call from a colonel in the United States Army by the name of Ami Cohen. He was born here in Washington, and he was in Desert Storm. And he called me and he says, after Desert Storm, I decided to go make Aliyah and to come to Israel, and I'm looking for a job. So I asked him, what are your credentials to get the job? So he says, first, I'm a fully qualified heart surgeon and for adults, and I'm fully qualified pediatric heart surgeon. I said, that's good. That's what I'm looking at. That's very good. But what other things you have? So he says, if you open up the Washington Post, then you'll see a chubby guy holding 2 missiles in his 2 hands, and on them was written, to Saddam Hussein, with love from Tel Aviv. So I told him, you are accepted. That was enough. So one thing is, when you build, it's not depending on one-man show. It's how to build a team. That's the most important thing. So I went into the Wikipedia. I looked what is an A team and what is a B team, or a heavens team and a hell's team. So I found out that the heavens team is if the doctors are American or Israeli, if the cooks are French, if the mechanics are German, if the policemen are English, and the lovers Italian, right? And it's all organized by the Swiss. And what is hell of a team? If the doctors are from Zulu tribe, making medicine, voodoo medicine, and if the cooks are English, or if the mechanics are, if the mechanics are French,
I thought, of course.
and if the
obvious.
and if the policemen are German, okay, and if the Swiss are the lovers, and if everything is organized by the Italians. So first of all, you have to build up the team. So Ami Cohen came to me with a dream. And his dream was, because he was situated in South Korea, a fully qualified pediatric heart surgeon, he saw children dying, even when the surgery that they should have done on them maybe take half an hour or 1 hour just to give some, narcotics into the ribs, open up and tie a vessel. That was the whole thing. If you don't operate in that time, they come to a situation where they lose the possibility of even surgery, and they die. And I had one beautiful patient from Ethiopia like that we couldn't operate, and we sent her back home, but she went to another hospital and she died on the table. So not only we thought at that time, so he came with this dream and says, I would love to start here a project where we can help the developing countries to do heart surgery and to save their lives. And I was crazy enough in this first year you have to have a crazy guy like me to agree to something like that, because if you want to focus on a department that starts to work in heart surgery, you have to focus only on your good results, because otherwise the big hospitals over there in Israel are going to put an obstacle to you. But I agreed it because I saw that has a fantastic possibility, first of all, to save a life. And there is Tikkun Olam, Boaz. Sure. If you save one life, you save the world. And we made it as the most important pillar in our Save a Child's Heart program. And the second one is you should love your neighbor like you love yourself. Rabbi Akiba, he was 40 years, he was an analphabet. And then he decided to go and learn and became one of the biggest rabbi of Judaism and humanity. So Save a Child's Heart is not only operating on children, but is also educating the staffs all over the places where we go. I would like just to inform you that we are celebrating 20 years of our existence, and we operated 4,200 children that otherwise would have been dead. We are connected to 54 developing countries all over the world. The last one, child that was operated, is from Afghan, from Kabul.
Oh, nice.
And it had to take different cooperation and connections to bring him.
Surgery in Israel or over
Surgery in Israel, in our hospital, and he was placed. But you know, when we started it,
I'm sorry, but technically speaking, the kid from Kabul, how did he come to Israel? I mean, how did you do it technically?
14 months of age, with a complicated situation where he had his transposed vessels, and he had two holes, one in the atrium, one in the ventricle, and nobody in the world wanted to operate it in his part of the world, Pakistan or other places. They were not able. So through Save a Child's Heart, that is communicating with the United Nations, we are recognized by the United Nations as their NGO. We are recognized by the Chinese president with the highest medal of humanity, and we are recognized by our president, Shimon Peres, for volunteering, and by USAID by giving us all the support possible. He was brought and operated successfully. He's now back home. And we had it from 54 countries. These 54 countries, we don't look to them from high standpoint into them. We look to them in the height of our eyes. They are partner sites. So I remember, Boaz, you people are very difficult people, you know. You have questions, yeah, the journalist.
Yeah.
If you can just
I'm going to disturb you with other questions soon, so I'm asking for forgiveness immediately, please. Yes.
Yeah. So I was asked by a TV station, well, so what, he says to me. Well, you operate 100 cases, you operate maybe 500 cases, but there are so many children that are born just in China, in Hebei region, a small region of 50 million people, you understand? They are born every year 5,000 kids with congenital. So what do you do? I remember my answer that was at the beginning of the program. I told them, I know that we are now like a drop in an ocean.
Nice.
But being in Buffalo, I said to him, we will grow to be Niagara Falls. So we, after 10 years, we become Niagara Falls because we built the home of the children in Holon, which is the city of the children. Everyone should know it. We built a beautiful home for $4.5 million, where children for all the colors, doesn't matter what color, what the gender, what religion, what financial status, are accepted and they are treated. But for me, it was not enough also to be Niagara Falls. I wanted it to be Niagara Falls and something. So we are starting to build our International Children's Hospital. Beautiful. On the grounds. It started 3 weeks ago, where we will be fully with telemedicine, entering to our partner sites, educating them, diagnosing them, helping them under the umbrella of University of Tel Aviv. And I have still dreams, but my residents say, if the professor is dreaming, nobody sleeps. Thank you.
Bravo. Great honor. Professor, you know, I see that you don't like questions. I had 17 more, so I'll ask him. Because I want to ask you. I'm joking. I think, Professor Ashkenazi, you helped Brazil also. You worked before the Olympics. You contributed for the preparation of Brazil Olympics. Is that so? Maybe you can tell us a little bit, and why didn't you help us to have more medals? But that's another thing. Tell me, please.
Yes, I was accepted to organize the emergency systems in Rio de Janeiro for the last 4 years to prepare them for the Olympics. And as you saw during the Olympics, all the medical issues there were under control. But the most amazing thing was that they decided 2 years ago that a general from the Brazilian military would be the commander of the 4 sites of the Olympics. And all the people there, the leaders there, were terrified from this general. He is very tough, they told me. You know, sit without moving. He's very tough. So me and my team, we were sitting in his office. I was with 14 guys from all over the world. And he came inside, he stood up and sit like the military. And then he looked, he said, "You are Israeli, right?" I said, "Yes." So he stood up and he said, "Kolod balevav." He was the military attaché of Brazil in Israel. Okay. And he loves Israel. So he's our ambassador there. Yeah.
How would you, sorry.
Yeah, please.
No, because we're also among Americans, and we're also very curious to know, we speak a lot about Israel, of course, but also, you know, when you've got, a disaster, something happening in the world, how do Americans usually, respond nowadays? They respond fast? Are they willing to help a lot? Is it like before? A bit about America's reaction. We're also curious to know that.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about United States insight. So the last, from September 11, 15 years, United States is safer, but not safe. The emergency preparedness, the emergency organizations in United States are prepared, but they are not ready. So you have a long way to go. In United States, you have a long way to go. Part of the problem is because of denial. Part of the problem is because of not involving the main actor. The main actor in emergency response is not leaders, not EMS, not ambulance services, not physicians, not nurses, citizens. I will give you an example from United States. You are more than 300 million people in United States. How many first responders are in United States? 1 million, 2 million? There are another 300 million people that nobody is giving them responsibility or commitment to do something. Look, in Israel, there is a joke, American joke about Israel, that every time that a road accident happened in Israel, 3, 4, 5 injuries, the problem is not how many injured, how many wounded. The problem is how many doctors and how many physicians will hold their car in the middle of the street and will start treating. We have not a mass casualty event, we have a mass physician event. Because in Israel, we are committed. In Israel, more than 50% of the casualties during terror attacks are brought to the hospital by citizens, not by MADA. More than 80% of the casualties are treated first by citizens, not by ambulances, not by MADA. In United States, this is not common. In United States, the public is not part of the preparedness. The public is not part of the response. The public is even not part of the prevention. I will give you an example of school shooting. School shooting in United States, we evaluate the situation from a center in Connecticut, the situation in United States. Most of the cases of school shooting in the United States could be prevented by citizens, by friends. But okay, you have some terminology about if you see something, say something. But this is not only saying something, you should also do something. If you see something, say something, but do something. Doing something is important because say something is passive. Do something is more active. So the problem in United States now is that the community should be involved in preparedness. This is the main problem.
And do you think after what we saw what happened, I mean, in California, in San Bernardino, Orlando, now in New York, I mean, do you think it's changing? It will change or no? It's something in the state of mind? And
it is the state of mind. There is also a problem with the police. Look, let me give you the example about Bataclan, France, not about United States. I don't want to offend my friends in United States. Bataclan, bad people are shooting inside building. Mm-hmm. So what the hell the police are thinking now? That they will negotiate with him? He will finish his ammunition, he will kill everyone, he will throw all his bombs, and now he's waiting. He's waiting 3-4 hours, and then the police come. I'm concerned as a doctor because I have few injured guys there that are bleeding. Half an hour they will bleed, 45 minutes they will bleed, and then they are dying. That's it, they will die. So I think that the police should go inside as soon as possible. So I gave in one of the cities lately, one of the bad guys that killed in a club. I gave a presentation and the police asked me, so Isaac, this is not Israel. What do you think? Two police that are not experts will go inside and will confront the bad guy? I said, yes. But said, they are not experts. I said, yeah, but this is their mission. They have weapons. He said, but he will kill them. I said, okay, he will kill them. This is their job to be dead. This is their job, not the citizens. This is not the job of the citizens to fight the terrorists. So if you see something inside, someone is shooting, the police should go inside as soon as possible and confront the guy. They can confront him by talking. But the best thing to do is to kill him. Mm-hmm. This is the best thing to do.
You mentioned Bataclan, I think in November 2015 in France, more than 100 deaths. I mean, in a club, it is true. Police was there for 2 hours outside. I covered it as a journalist. Shocking. 3 hours, shocking, very shocking. I mean, the way it happened, and it is true that it's a state of mind. You could see it in Toulouse, you could see it in Hypercacher, you could see it with the Kouachi brothers. I mean, all over the place, how people don't really understand, don't know how to react. And in Bataclan, no one even would think, like in Israel, for example, just to, I mean, maybe also to, there's also a possibility of killing a terrorist, which is not always a very bad thing. Sometimes it's even a good idea. Anyway, but when you speak about Bataclan, immediately I think of the terrorist identity, and immediately I think of refugees. And when you think of refugees, I think of Polizer, of course. And why am I thinking about you right now? Among those refugees, if you remember about a year ago, when Angela Merkel said, I mean, let's greet them all, some people say, wait a second, among them maybe there are a few terrorists. Even in your presidential race, I mean, there was one of the two candidates, I forgot exactly who spoke about the refugee. No, it was the man, the woman. One mentioned it, of course, the refugees and maybe stop and close gates, etc., etc. He may be right, he may be wrong. You'll decide on the November the 8th. And my question to you is, when you go and give support, and you know exactly, I mean, because we had terrorist attacks since then, we know that among them, I mean, many are Daesh, among many. I mean, when you say many also, something very interesting. Let's take, for example, France with all the terrorist attack. Imagine, I mean, you can't say, I mean, all of them, of course, but let's imagine that in France, for example, media say 5, but it's a bit like 7 million Muslims in France. So let's try to imagine, I don't speak about migrants, but we'll go to this afterwards. Let's try to imagine that 99.9% Nobel Prize. Mother Teresa, 19, amazing. 0.1%, it's 7,000 people. I mean, 7,000 people, look what they can make. And they make also a big stain on all the other population. All this to say that when you are there, for example, in Lesbos or anywhere you are, you know the history of the last year. You know that among migrants, you might have 1 or 2, 3 who are Daesh who fled. I'm talking when you treat men. Does it come to your mind, or when in this specific moment you think of nothing but help, help, help?
I think none of us we don't live in illusions, we don't live in La La Land, and terrorists and extremists are in Europe before the refugee crisis. Like you said, I mean, you lived in Paris, you lived in France, we know that all the extremist group, they have already their groups and their gangs there everywhere. Now, we're luckily for us, and I think maybe my colleagues will share the same perspective, we don't deal with the political questions. We don't deal with it. We deal with the humanitarian questions, and we don't criticize Merkel, or we don't give her a hug for welcoming so many refugees. This is a reality that's already has been, in a way, enforced of all of us, and especially on Europe. But it's also an opportunity that we've seen to change people's perspective. Now, again, people who are much better experts than me to counter terrorism will tell you that if a terrorist wants to come to Germany, he could make a fake passport. He could pay $5,000 and get a fake passport. He doesn't need to go through Greece, or he doesn't need to go through Lesbos with all the boats wearing nothing but having nothing but the clothes they wear. There might have been people, and I'll tell you that the German government that we work very closely with, they asked us, they took 1.1 million refugees. And when I first met the German Minister of Education and the Minister of Health, they told me in a very non-typical German way, and I say this as a grandson of Holocaust survivors from Hungary, they told me we're overwhelmed. We have no idea what to do. We're very worried, both because we don't have a system to take so many people. They came in such a short time. And any kind of support that you could offer, it will be great. And they told us within this 1.1 million refugees, there are 60,000 unaccompanied minors, mostly men. And they are a big point of concern. First, because they're very vulnerable, they don't have their parents. But also, these are the kids that without proper treatment and care could very easily go into the wrong places. So they told us, we want to support your program. We want you to bring Israelis, Jews, and Arabs to help these unaccompanied minors, because we know that the bigger the program, the bigger your presence will be, the bigger your education program will be with this, will be with these unaccompanied minors, we can decrease the chances that they would go into the wrong places. Again, to tell you that we can do everything to support everyone, no, we can't. And just a month ago or 2 months ago in Munich, an unaccompanied minor from Afghanistan was the one who committed the terror act. He stabbed 8 people. So again, we don't live in La La Land. We take all the security precautions, but through this humanitarian work, we feel like we could really change people's minds. And even if we change few of them, we do a lot. One more thing I want to tell you is that the truth is that in Lesbos, the big majority of people we've seen are women and children. And I do feel like these people could still grow, not hating us, hopefully.
Amen. So last question, as we have really 5 minutes, and I would like also 1 or 2 questions if we can. Are we? She's the boss here. We were able to have 1 or 2. We're not. So last question to Professor, and really, and shortly, and if you could answer me shortly. And by the way, after the story you told us about Kazakhstan with your brother and with the mice, now I understand why in Washington they all run away. I mean, I can be tranquil in my room. They saw you coming, they run away. Anyway, my question is, you speak about state of mind. You, Professor, deal with kids' hearts. I mean, we know perfectly that a kid, I mean, all hearts of children, I mean, they can be a Palestinian, they can be Israelis, they can be North Korean. So beautiful, beautiful hearts. I mean, so naive hearts and amazing hearts that you would only want to save. You are the cardiologist. I mean, you're the professor here. What you can contribute also, and we know also in parallel, and we make this panel because of the image of Israel, and so people who do not want to accept us at BDS and all that. So all those little hearts, I mean, that are so innocent. What happens to hearts when they grow up?
Okay, that's a good question. First of all, they grew, and they are, if you correct the congenital anomaly or the acquired anomaly, they can grow and live their lives beautifully. Sometimes you need to have a stage 2 of operation, or even stage 3, because the arteries that you are sewing in becomes small for an adult patient, but they are, in general, they can do it and they can grow. You know, these children, Boaz, they want, from the developing states, they want a new world. They don't want to be in the same situations that they are. And they don't want it as a symphony from Dvorak, the new world. They want it in a real new world where they can touch toys, they can grow, they can love, they can build a family and everything. And you should see when these first mothers from Gaza or from Jericho or from other places, they are coming. But the first thing, they are looking to us in a hatred that you cannot explain. They hate you. They don't believe in you. They know that you are going to harm the child. But when the child gets up, they are your best friends. And you can see in our hospital all the colors, all the nationalities, all the religions, and when they bend over their children after a surgery and they touch with their shoulders one another, that's a kind of electricity that goes just between the mother, and it's a special electricity, which means we can cooperate, we can be compassionate, we can educate, we want to live as friends, and that has to start from education from day one, not to educate that you should shoot every Jewish guy and kill him, but that we can live, there is place for everybody, everything is developing. I'm an optimistic, a fully optimist.
You should be.
Because of my young age.
Of course.
And I think we are the best ambassadors. I call it medicine as a currency for peace. So what we are doing, at the beginning we didn't have any money. So I was raising money from people that are so heavy in their pockets and gave them to the people that don't have any. Mm-hmm. And they tried to do it. And while walking in the Fifth Avenue, all my friends were clapping their pockets. It didn't help them, so they put zippers. Also didn't help them. And everybody now is running after us to donate and to build a new world. And thank you for listening to us.
Thank you very much. So I will conclude by saying two things with your permission. First of all, something you mentioned Afghanistan, both of you, so I have to tell a little story about, because people like you, like three of you, I saw them on the ground. Afghanistan, 2 or 3 years ago, a professor, Jose Orostristan, he treats kids, he's a surgeon, and he was working in Kabul hospital, and what he was doing, and you should know, when you listen to the news, when you read newspaper, so you think of Afghani man, of course, barbarians, Taliban, all that, but in Afghanistan, the man, when his child is in hospital, he would not leave his bed. If he stays there a month, the father would stay a month. He will sleep on the floor. He will not go until he takes his child back with him. Beautiful. And every time after every surgery, they would ask my friend, Dr. Jose Orostristan, how much to pay. They would do anything. They save your kids. You'd give them anything, even anything. And then he said, the only thing I would like you to know is that a Jewish doctor saved your life. These three people are amazing. And I would say to the girl on the second row, when I came here, there are many panels, about diplomacy, about 2-state solution, 5-state solution, Palestinians, Jordanians, and that's what I deal with every day. And they gave me this panel, and I said, well, and over there and this. I am honored, flattered. I had the best panel of IAC. Thank you, three of you. I'm honored.